Hello, welcome to the program. This is Moneyline with me, Nancy Naji. So nice to know that you're joining us again today. On the program today, we will be talking about the HDMI. One would wonder what is HDMI. Well, I'll be telling you about that in a bit. That is the Highway Development and Management Initiative. HDMI is not that code, you know, for those of us that are technical. I can see my camera people laughing. HDMI code. It's not the HDMI code. It is the Highway Development and Management Initiative. We'll be looking at that and what that entails, you know. On this program, we'll keep you up to speed with what's happening around the economy and initiatives even by the government. There was a time we talked about the Sukuk bonds. There was also a time, or I normally refer to the tax credit scheme. What actually is the difference between the HDMI and the Sukuk bonds that finance some roads in Nigeria, and also the tax credit scheme such as that we saw companies like Dangote and Co take advantage of? So we'll be taking a look at that in a bit. My guest will be joining me shortly to take a look at that. So I think that's it today. If time permits us till the end of the show, if we are not disrupted with a live broadcast, we'll be taking you also through the markets for today. So let's get started with our business headlines. The federal government says the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement will boost exports in the continent by at least $560 billion. The senior special assistant to the Nigerian president on the public sector and Secretary National Action Committee on AFTA, Francis Anatogu, stated this during the first African Local Content Roundtable Conference in Yenagoa, Bayelsa State. According to him, benefits of the AFTA include lifting 30 million Africans out of extreme poverty, boosting income of nearly 68 million others who live on less than $5.60 a day, boosting Africa's income by $450 billion by 2035, a gain of 7%, and adding $76 billion to the income to the rest of the world. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, has stated that the country is blessed with a large number of exportable commodities in the non-oil sector that may help grow the economy. Abba Bello, the managing director at Nexim, stated that the bank had begun implementing the 500 billion naira stimulus facility and the 100 billion naira export project fund at a single-digit interest rate to support the production and export of goods and services in collaboration with the Central Bank of Nigeria. Pension funds administrators have been directed by the National Pension Commission not to charge any fees on micro-pension funds under their control that are less than 5 million naira. This was revealed in a circular sent to all licensed PFAs on the head by the Head Surveillance Department, PENCOM, titled Circular on Fee Structure for Tiny Pension Fund. In light of the obstacles faced by licensed pension fund administrators in executing micro-pension plan, PENCOM believes the fee structure of the micro-pension fund should be reviewed. According to the Nigerian Interbank Settlement System, Nigerians processed nearly 20 trillion naira in quick payment transactions in May. May's transactions were 0.15% greater than April's. In May, instant payment transactions indicated an increase in expenditure compared to April, from 18.36 million in April to 19.73 million in May. The number of mobile inter-scheme transactions climbed by 7.46%. According to fresh industry figures issued on Tuesday by the Nigerian Communications Commission, telecommunication providers have lost 19.20 million users since the federal government began connecting national identity numbers with SIM cards. In November 2020, there were over 208 million subscribers. In April 2021, there were 187.7 million subscribers. Finally, the World Bank has disclosed that the global economy is expected to expand by 5.6% this year, forecasting that Nigeria's economy will grow by 1.8% for the period. This would be the fastest post-recession global growth in 80 years due to the economic rebounds from developed and middle-income countries. The World Bank disclosed this in its June Economic Prospects for 2021 report, adding that many emerging markets and developing economies continue to struggle with the COVID-19 pandemic and its aftermath. All right, let's quickly take a break, and when we return from the break, it will be time for us to delve into our interview. Do join our social media platforms. The handles will be put on the screen shortly. Do stay.
The business world is always evolving, and to keep track of unfolding events, you need a trusted companion. At Moneyline with Nancy, our job is to follow every business story, separating the facts from the fiction and presenting you the truth, pure, simple, and unembellished. To stay in control in the ever-changing world of business, we are your trusted business companion. Join us every weekday at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on AIT, DSTV channel 253. Moneyline with Nancy. Be ahead, stay ahead.
All right, welcome back to the program. In case you're just joining us, it's time for the interview right now. Okay, can the audio in my ears be reduced? Director, please, so that I can thank you guys. Okay, just in case you're just joining us, my guest is with me right now, Comrade Prince Will Okpore, who is the National President, Association for Public Policy Advocacy. Earlier on, I did talk about our topic for today. We will be looking at the HDMI, Highway Development and Management Initiative. Welcome to you, Comrade, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Let's get started. You know, at the beginning of the program, I attempted to, you know, intimate our viewers what the interview will be about, HDMI. And when I mentioned HDMI, my cameramen were giggling like, what's HDMI? You know, there's a HDMI cord in perhaps most of those things that we're talking about. So I think just give me a description of what HDMI, in the context of what the government means.
HDMI is a Highway Development and Management Initiative. is a project of the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing. It is developed to be able to add value to the nation's economy within the context of highway development, the road infrastructure issues. This concept came in line with the current trend in the nation where issues of public enterprises have been jettisoned. In the past, we used to hear about government investing in businesses, government investing in public enterprises, but just like the Keynesian theory promoted then. But in recent times, because of the acts of corruption, because of poor management of government facilities and enterprises, that government has shifted from investing in businesses to allowing private sector operators to invest while government provides the enabling environment. So the HDMI, the Highway Development and Management Initiative, is the initiative that the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing has brought into being so that private sector operators who are interested and qualified and considered credible can take advantage of this policy to invest, develop and manage the highways in Nigeria. Looking at road infrastructure the way it is now, you will agree with me that our federal highways are so many of them are in sorry states. And the budget, as checked by CBN, says that it will take Nigeria about 35 trillion naira to be able to put the highways in order.
In the next 10 years.
In the next
From
10
that time till the next year.
So if you look at it, how will Nigeria generate this 35 trillion naira? Will Nigeria as a nation be able to take care of other needs if attention should just be focused on highways to generate 35 trillion and invest there? So the idea now is to decentralize the issue and allow private sector come in so that they can bring in their investment into this sector and make the highways motorable, make the highways economic friendly, make them social friendly, and create employment and other opportunities within the highway space.
You know, when you were saying this, what was coming to my mind was when we floated the Sukuk bonds. That's like Sukuk, the Islamic bonds, let me put it that way. And the tax credit scheme, which, for example, companies like Dangote have taken advantage of, and we know how much that have been shaved off their balance sheets because of they took advantage of that tax credit scheme. What is the unique characteristic of this HDMI? What is it making it distinct from?
See, I'm a civil society person. Like you could see, our association is Association for Public Policy Analysis. This concept, we consider it unique and different from the Sukuk and tax credit scheme you mentioned. For instance, tax credit scheme is just that investors will invest and benefit from tax exemption or tax reduction. That is just what it is. In the Sukuk, it's just to generate capital to be used for investment. But in HDMI, it's not just capital. It's not just tax credit. It's about concessioning these highways to some qualified private sector operators. In HDMI, the ICRC is involved, the Infrastructure Concession and Regulatory Commission is involved. Before they take, right now, they've not even taken off. They've just done a bid opening for the companies that have shown interest. It is a situation where emphasis on HDMI is making the roads viable economically and socially, not just making the roads motorable alone. I don't know if you get what I mean. For instance, you will see that there is so much youth-urban migration, rural migration of the youth from rural areas to the city centers. And most of the highways cut across many rural areas. And those rural areas they cut across need development. You have the challenges of insecurity on those highways. If a vehicle breaks down on the highway, there's a problem. The owner of the vehicle is afraid. The passengers that are carrying are afraid. But with HDMI, provisions will be made for security. Provisions will be made for rest places. Provisions will be made for people to invest, small businesses to invest, because there are components of it. The components, apart from the concessionaires who will get the authority to run the highways that will be given to them, is not pure outright privatization. It's not a system where
Yeah,
you're just
because I was
talking
coming
about
to that.
capital.
If it means
It's not
privatizing our highways.
privatization. Privatization is selling it out to private people to manage. But here you are concessioning. Government is participating while the private sector is participating. You are not handing it over to them. Again, one other unique thing is that this provides opportunity for small businesses. Because within the routes that the companies that will get the concession license will operate, the small businesses will be allowed to do all manner of businesses on those routes. Take, for instance, mechanic workshops could be established in many points within the routes. And that means creating jobs for mechanics.
But we already have something like that. If you're traveling, you see like roadside mechanics.
How many of them do you see and how qualified are they? Sometimes when you are traveling and your car gets spoiled because you've seen one signboard of mechanic, whether he knows what to do or not is a problem. But under
so are you saying with this now we'll have like a more formal,
yes, a formal
small
setting.
businesses like commerce, let me put it that way, commerce on the
Of
highways?
course, on the road, yes. There'll be economic development on the highways. If you're a mechanic you want to operate, you'll be assessed to be confirmed qualified to do it. So that if any vehicle has a problem on the route, the vehicle can get into your place and you handle it. If you make a mistake, the people operating the route can get you so that you don't go and run people down. So it makes the vehicle owners, the transporters, or the people operating vehicles on the routes safer. They have people that can handle them. You have a problem, you can't continue your journey, you have a place you can rest and continue your journey the next day. You need convenience, you have a place you can use. You are hungry, you have food to eat. So all these are provided within this context. And you see, another thing it provides is it provides a portal. A portal for promoting small businesses can be useful to other bigger organizations. Now, for instance, look at signage. Along the highways, you have a situation where advertorials, advertisements, sites will be created, and that will generate income. You are generating jobs, you are generating income, you are improving the social situation in those areas. There will be security checkpoints in most of the locations along the highway. So the fear of that a vehicle got spoiled and the people moving will be robbed, will be limited under this scheme.
Can we talk about, because I know that there are 12 highways under the HDMI. Can you run us through some of those 12 highways, those 12 federal roads because I think we have about 35,000 kilometers of federal highways. So about of that, we have those 12 that are going to be involved in this HDMI.
I'll have a challenge mentioning all of them.
Yeah, just
but I know that Enugu Port Harcourt Highway is one of them.
Yeah.
I know that Aba Onisha Owerri Highway is one of them. I know that Ibadan Lagos Highway is one of them. I know there are those of them up north. There are 12 of them. Take it according
Kano
to
Medugri, Kano Shuari or so.
You know, they are chosen according to the geopolitical zones. Apart from the geopolitical zones, they're looking at viable areas. Because for an investor to invest in such a scheme, the investor is predicated on viability of the areas the investor wants to invest in. These are major highways where you see people move often, and the economy in that area could be encouraging.
Okay, I think let me just, for the benefit of our viewers, let me run through those highways because they are quite important. The highways the 12 highways have been earmarked of the first phase.
Yes.
First phase, I must say.
Yeah, the first phase is the pilot phase.
Yes.
Because the success of the first phase will not lead to duplicating it in other highways. But for now, the 12 are the ones that have been selected. Okay,
so let me run through quickly the 12, and I would appreciate if my team can follow me as I'm reading it so that we'll put it on the screen. The first one is Benin Asaba, and that is about 125 kilometers. Abuja Lokoja Road. That road needs to be, I don't know for how many years now. Abuja Lokoja Road, Kano Kasina, Onitsha Owerri Road, Shagamu Benin, Abuja Kefi Akwanga, Kano Medugri, Kano Shuari, Potiskum Damaturu, Lokoja Benin, Enugu Port Harcourt, Lori Jeba, Lagos Ota, Abeokuta, Lagos Badagry, Seme border. So Benin Asaba route is the longest in terms of, no, it's not the longest really. I'm seeing a 258 kilometers here. That is Shagamu Benin. So Shagamu Benin should be the longest route of the 12 selected highways. I hope we've gotten that right. So I'm even particularly interested Because when I'm traveling, I'm using the Benin-Asaba Road, I'm using Onitsha-Owerri Road, that, you know, and even the Shagamu-Benin. Most of these roads are economically important, I guess. That's what I noticed.
Yeah, because if you look at most of those roads, movement of goods and services, not just individuals alone, movement of goods and services where people go conduct their businesses, they are bringing goods from one zone to the other. These are major routes that are used. And this, for instance, if you're traveling along the road, maybe you're going to the east from Abuja, you see where Dangote lorries sometimes have their problems on the roads and they are there. You know, you see where lorries get spoiled and they remain there for 1-2 days. It's a serious challenge on the highways. So they've looked at, the people that did this looked at the viability of these routes for them to select these 12 for a start.
Okay. Lokoja Benin route is the longest with 270 kilometers, followed by Shagamu Benin. That's the longest. So you're saying definitely that this HDMI is not about privatization and all of that. And you've touched briefly also about why these 12 roads or 12 federal highways were selected,
Yes.
and the criteria, perhaps because of the economic importance
Yes.
and the social importance of it. Okay, let's take a look at the injection of capital, because so much money definitely going into this initiative, because the 12 roads which we mentioned contribute about 5.6% of the total 35,000 kilometer road network that the federal government has. How are we getting in the funds? That's talking about trillions of naira.
Yeah, for the first instance, I think 1 trillion naira is expected.
Okay.
For the first 12 that will be handled. And you know very well that you can't get these roads, these highways working without funds. To maintain them, develop them, and then develop other components that will make the HDMI very useful. So capital is of very important, of essence here. And the injection of that fund is expected to serve as a catalyst that will stimulate economic development in these routes. For instance, if funds are injected, rest centers can be developed. Citizens that are interested in investing in these areas will be able to come on board, and like the small businesses can come on board. But if they don't see a framework that is set clearly that will make them know that they are getting involved will add value, they wouldn't come. So there is need for these funds to be injected in this project.
Okay, if we still move ahead, you know, you've really differentiated the why HDMI is different from Sukuk, and what's the next one? Tax credits scheme. If we take a look at, or moving ahead right now, beyond even the social benefit, does the government have, or do you think that the government has really done an assessment of like how many jobs will be created?
Yeah.
Because for any project management, you should be able to say, okay, this I'm going to do, this is what it entails, and this is the outcome.
It is expected that 35,000 jobs will be created through this process.
Informal?
Yes.
Informal jobs?
Informal.
Or semi-formal?
Majority of them will be semi-formal.
Okay.
And informal. Or for instance, like I mentioned before, the mechanic workshops that will be created on these routes. At least even if you create 10 on one route, 10 times 12, you have 120 mechanic workshops that will be created. If you have the electrician that will work there, the welder that will work there, the pure mechanic, the vulcanizers and all that, if you times them, you see jobs multiplying. Then you have the restaurants that will be there for people to feed themselves, and you check the number of persons that will be engaged in doing the work. You now look at the security posts that will be mounted on those routes. It would definitely impact seriously on reducing poverty. Reducing poverty. In fact, the Sustainable Development Goals tells you about poverty reduction as one key area. How do you reduce poverty without creating jobs? You can reduce poverty by creating jobs through this method. Then when you look at it again, the urban migration of young people from the rural areas to the urban cities is because they don't have much to do in the rural areas. But when these projects come on board, you see that most youths will have things to be doing within their areas without really having to travel down to far or to congest the city with so many young people that have no jobs to do there. They can get busy at their various areas. So the impact will really be serious. And why we feel this will be possible is because of the way the project has started. It has started by, first of all, the ICRC giving approval for this to take off, which means they have reviewed the concept and considered it okay for the country.
So you're saying that these projects have taken off now?
Yeah, it's taken off because the Infrastructure Concession and Regulatory Commission has given approval that the Minister of Works can go ahead because they have reviewed the concept. And at the beginning, Lagos Business School, KPMG, and many other consulting organizations, even the UK group, evaluated the concept and considered it viable and okay before the Infrastructure and Regulatory Concession and Regulatory Commission came to give approval. Right now, bidding process has commenced.
Okay.
To carry out a transparent bidding to identify those that are qualified to do it. So the beginning point is really bringing in some level of transparency, bringing in some monitoring and evaluation mechanisms that will convince the average Nigerian that the project will not really be business as usual.
The thing is that government is involving private sector now. The number one question that the private sector will definitely ask is that how will we get our money back? How are we going to get return on investment?
The very essence of getting into private sector business is having the creative ability to generate income, provide service that will give you income in return. Like I've said, this project is not just about roads. It's about enhancing the economic well-being of Nigerians. It's about developing the communities, because these roads run through communities. And most of the communities are underdeveloped or even have no semblance of development at all. And they have a lot of their young people living the areas. Now, the private business person that is coming is investing because he will recoup. You recoup, for instance, the advertising component of the project. If there are provisions for advertisement, as you advertise, you pay to the concessionaire, he will recover money because he is the one managing the route. He gets money from there. The small businesses that will come under the unbundling approach will get their money. So there are different things that need to be done within this context that will make every private sector investor recoup their money. And that is why they are interested. Because if they have not seen viability, they will not come to bid. Right now, I think about 75 companies or so applied in the first bidding process. For them to have come to apply means that they have seen viability or prospects for viability in the project. That's why they are coming.
So we're talking about highway economy.
Yes, we are talking about prosperity on the highway. We are talking about economic development on the highway. We are talking about achieving the poverty reduction goal of the Sustainable Development Goals in Nigeria.
Do we have a timeline to all of this? Because we could have laudable ideas and all of that, but what really plagues us is the full implementation of all of that. For like the Sukuk bonds, money was raised, at least for, I think, for some federal roads too in the country. The tax credit scheme, companies are, is there a timeline for this? And perhaps do you also think that the federal government should also be forthcoming in terms of even more information as to the states of roads in Nigeria?
Well, I think you, the media operators, share in this responsibility, what you're asking me now. Because the way the project will go is a responsibility for all of us to really keep asking government to provide this information at every point, at one point or the other. Now, but looking at the way it is now, I cannot be here now to tell you, because right now they've not really given out this project to companies. They're just doing bid opening. And then by the time they finish the bidding processes and then begin to talk about award.
What I'm even saying is that perhaps, I don't know, for those of you that are in the advocacy community, if you've heard snippets from the government in terms of the timeline, okay, between 2021 and 2023, we're going to get all the processes sorted up to the procurement, the bidding, and all of that. And these roads should be completed by these concessionaires between, for example, 2021 to 2023.
That is the
so that we can actually also hold them. You've given me back the responsibility of asking them.
Of course.
So that we can hold them. Okay, you said this, would this happen by this time, so that we can assess them.
You see, openness is one key in achieving any goal of a development process. Now, we're talking here, like I said, they've done the bid opening. let's see them do the foundational work is being done. As the project continues, other information will be made available to people the way it will be. Because I don't believe any company will be given the concession approval without having a timeline. There has to be a timeline for them to be able to realize certain targets. It won't be an open check to them, that they wouldn't have to know the limits or the time they need to achieve certain goals or deliverables that the ministry expect to give to Nigerians.
Why should Nigerians have high hope over this HDMI, bearing in mind that we shouldn't see what we saw with the power sector, with discos? Yes, it's not really a laughing matter. You know, because even the same minister, this same minister was also the minister of power at the time.
He wasn't the minister when privatization was
I know that. I'm just saying that what will make this project not, for us to have high hopes for it. Yeah. That's what I'm saying, that it shouldn't end like
you know why I smiled?
With, FG and discos.
Why I smiled when you made this statement is I know that your colleague Dorcas has covered our association's activities on electricity consumer protection severally. I've featured in your programs. We advocate for consumer protection in the electricity sector. So we are conversant with what is happening in that sector. But that is a different ballgame when you compare it with HDMI. So, why? Okay. Because at the beginning of privatization of the power, in the first place, power sector was outright privatization. It's not concessioning. Now, here you're talking about concessioning, where government will be part of the process. You concession to them, you monitor them, and ensure that at every point in time, they deliver on what is agreed on. And then again, you can see the process where ICRC is involved now. It's purely infrastructure. Electricity, you're talking about the metering process. You're talking about the metering process. Metering process is different from the road, where the operator sees the deliverable practically there. Here in electricity sector, you don't even know the number of kilowatts hour you are being billed on. You know, and monitoring of the regulation of the electricity sector by Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, with due respect, is weak and faulty. It's weak and faulty because Section 80 and 81 of the Electric Power Sector Reform Act that deals with electricity consumer and licensing performance standards is not even made public for citizens to know. It's not made public for citizens to know. So what you see is that even the estimated billing methodology that entails that you bill the people according to what they have used is not being respected by the distribution companies.
So but in the road sector, is a bit different.
Yes, in the road sector, if you repair a road, people will see that the road is bad, and they will know the road has been repaired. It's a practical thing they will see. But where you are given electricity for 1 hour, and you are billed as if you use it for 72 hours, and you have nothing practically showing you how it goes. Here, they were told to, in fact, the distribution companies were supposed to provide a certain number of meters every year. They never provided. The infrastructure they were supposed to provide, the transformers, the poles, the wire, and all that, they never provided. But in HDMI now, the companies that will be given concession wouldn't want the community to go and buy sand or buy gravel for them. Neither will they want them to come and be the ones to do the thing. You know, but the concessionaire will be the one to handle these things. That'll be the issue. Okay. But in electricity, you see a situation where people just were given opportunity. In fact, the privatization...
But the federal government still has a stake in the discos. I hope you've not forgotten that.
The stake?
Over 40%.
No, that 40%, yes. How is it managed? The 40%...
There was a time that there was a call for federal government to sell their shares to even foreign investors.
Let me tell you, we've been advocating. The 40% share is not just for federal government. The state, local government, and federal own the 40% share. But as I speak with you now, nobody in the local government council monitors the collection of the distribution companies in the local governments. No unit in the state government monitors the income generated. Yet, the distribution company will tell you there is inadequate tariff. Now, how does the inadequate tariff come about? If the state, who is a shareholder in the disco, cannot say how much his citizens pay, irrespective of the fact that Section 14(2)(b) tells you that welfare and security of people shall be the primary purpose of government. And then it amounts to denying the people welfare and torture for the people when they pay money and they don't get the electricity and nothing is done to them.
So what you're saying in essence is that the HDMI is quite different.
Yes, HDMI looks at, basically looks at infrastructure on road, and then manages that infrastructure to develop economic activities around the highway network. That is what that one is. But the distribution company you're talking about is outright privatization, selling off these companies to them. Do they have the managerial and financial capacity to really manage the electricity sector? That's what you ask. Okay, the thorough due diligence that is being done at this preliminary stage on HDMI now, was it done in that of electricity? These are the questions we need to ask. Even today, you and I, even the media should be advocating that how much do local governments, citizens, pay for electricity? Okay, they have no meter. There is no meter in most of the rural local government areas. Yet, they are billed on estimation. They were told in the beginning, every transformer was supposed to have a meter, because estimated billing methodology entails that you look at the energy generated through the transformer, remove the losses, and share the rest to the people in that area. But what the distribution company does is that they come back, give every community 700,000 at the end of the month, 200,000. Communities keep contributing money to pay, and they get this light maybe once or twice in a month. And at the end of the month, bills are given to them. And no, we wrote petition to NEC that has not been addressed till today.
Okay.
And next, they set up a
Comrade, I think I have to halt you at that point.
Oh, you brought electricity.
Yes, now because I have to ask the questions. I have to ask the questions.
And I'm answering you.
Yes, it's just that there's no time and we're not talking of power now. So perhaps when we talk about power, you will come and talk about that. We're looking at the HDMI. So I just want to say thank you very much for coming. I hope we've been able to exhaust it. But I would also advise our viewers, you can actually also check that for that information so that we can be able to assess and evaluate, as well as call government to order when government seems not to be doing well. All right, thank you very much, Comrade Okpore, for coming on the program. I've been speaking with Comrade Prince Will Okpore, who is the National President, Association for Public Policy and
Analysis.
Okay,
Association for Public Policy Analysis.
Okay, not advocacy.
Not advocacy.
Okay.
Advocacy is part of our activities.
Okay, analysis. All right. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
All right. Let's quickly take the CBN weekly segments. We've been seeing this Apex Bank going around the country concerning intervention funds. So let's quickly check this out. And I think that's where I will say my bye-bye is for today. Hopefully, I'll see you all again tomorrow, God willing. Be the best you can be and be the change you want to see by now.